Let's take a look at the Unit 2 quiz review worksheet. First, it wants us to give some definitions. So what is an element? Well, an element is when you have one type of atom. For example, let's say you have some copper. That piece of copper that you have is made of all copper atoms. And there are 118 different types of atoms. So a compound is when you have two or more elements chemically combined. So an example would be, instead of just copper for an element, for a compound, maybe you have copper chloride, CuCl2. Now you've got a copper with two chlorine atoms. All right, how about aqueous? Aqueous is when you have a substance that's dissolved in water. So I'm going to say substance dissolved in water. And the symbol for this is writing a little, you write a little AQ in parentheses. So if you see this AQ after a compound, like let's say you saw CuCl2, copper chloride is blue crystals. But if you see the AQ after it, that means it looks like a blue liquid. It's that substance dissolved in water. And finally, for the last one here, a chemical formula is something that shows the numbers and types of atoms or elements. So for example, in our CuCl2, that's a chemical formula for the compound copper chloride. It shows that there's one copper atom chemically combined with two chlorine atoms. All right, next one for number 2, it says when calcium chloride is dissolved in water, how would you write the chemical formula? Well, we just talked about this. You would write CaCl2 with an AQ after it. That shows that that calcium chloride is dissolved in water. Number 3, for the chemical compound AgNO3S, what does the S symbol mean? It means it's a solid. Remember, there are solids, liquids, and gases. How many different elements are there in the compound? Well, Ag is silver, N is nitrogen, and O is oxygen, so there are 3 different elements. Good review of your symbols, and it really helps to know those symbols because you can identify things a little bit more quickly. O equals oxygen. How many atoms of each element are in this compound? Well, since Ag is just written once, that means there's one of it. Same thing with the nitrogen, there's just one nitrogen. But for oxygen, the 3 is with it. So 3 oxygens. When NaOH is combined with AgNO3, a solid and an aqueous solution of NaNO3 is formed. Write the chemical formula for the solid which is formed and explain your choice. We've done this question before. So it says these 2 things are added together and then you make NaNO3 and something else. So let's figure out what the something else is. So Na is right here, so I'm going to underline it, box it, cross it off, we've used it. NO3 is right here. So what's left is AgOH. And since the Ag is first in its compound, it stays first. Number 5, from the list of elements, pick 2 that you would expect to have similar properties and explain why. So let's see where they're at here. Neon is right here. And then we've got, what else was here? Lithium, phosphorus, circling all of them. We've got boron, chlorine, and Rb, rubidium. So there's only two that are actually in the same vertical group. So the two that would be the most similar would be lithium and Rb, rubidium, because they're in the same vertical column, which is also known as a family or a group. You can say either word. Number 6, identify each of the elements below as a metal or a non-metal based on their location. Well, we got to pay attention to the zigzag line right here. Everything to the left of the zigzag line is a metal, besides hydrogen, number 1. That's an exception. Everything to the right is a non-metal, and many of the elements bordering the zigzag, the ones with stars in my picture, are metalloids. Okay, so I guess it didn't give us any that were metalloids. So the first one is lithium here. I'm going to get a different color so I can circle these. And green. So lithium's right here. Since it's to the left of the zigzag, that means it's a metal. Letter B, manganese. Also to the left of this big zigzag line here. So that's another metal. Fluorine is to the right of the zigzag. That means that this is a non-metal. Ba for barium is to the left of the zigzag, so that's a metal. Argon is to the right of the zigzag, so that's a non-metal. And nitrogen, also to the right of the zigzag, so another non-metal. Number 7, give an example of an element that is an alkali metal. Well, the alkali metals are group 1A, okay, besides hydrogen. So this whole group that I colored pink. So we can give an example of any of those. I'm just going to choose the top one. Lithium is an alkali metal. How about letter B? Give an example of a halogen. The halogens I'm shading in green here. Group 7A, I'm just going to take the easy route and name the top one fluorine. C, the noble gases. The noble gases are group 8A, coloring them in yellow so I can pick any of those. I'm going to pick helium. And last but not least, the transition metals are this whole block right here in the center, also known as group B. So I can pick any of those. I'm going to pick number 28, nickel. So there you go. There's some great review for the unit